Picking up with question number 3, this comes from Unit 1, and this is a little bit more involved than the content we talked about, but you can still apply the information. So you're trying to figure out the zeros of these functions and which letter will make p plus q equal 5 and 1 over p plus 1 over q equal 8. If you were to try to factor this, you would see that you cannot factor it. You'd have to use the quadratic formula, which gets a little messy. So what we want to do is jump to our calculators. What I did is I went ahead and just put the function for letter choice A into my y equals on my calculator, and I graphed it. I'm going to find the zeros this way by hitting second trace 0 and finding what those zeros might be. So I hit enter, enter, and one more time. So that 0 is a nasty decimal. What we're going to do is go back to our home screen, second quit, and we're going to hit store. We store this value into letter P, alpha P. And that decimal is going to be the same as what we saw on the graph. I'll do the same thing for the second 0. So going back to the graph, second trace 0. I'm going to go over to that second 0, starting below. Almost there, below, above, and then enter one more time. Once again, not a pretty number. So I go back to the home screen and I'm going to store that into alpha q. Now I can go ahead and work with those operations from the question straight from the calculator. The first one was p plus q. So let's see if that equals 5. Alpha p plus alpha q equals 5. So far, so good. Now let's see if the second function is true. I like to hit alpha y equals to create that fraction feature, 1 over p plus 1 over q. If this is equal to 8, then we only had to do one guess and check. And there you go. So choice A is the correct answer here. Number 4, this comes from Unit 2, and we're talking about Lucy investing some money. There's a nice formula over on the right side of the board for you, and it's our APERT, or exponential growth formula. And I know that we're using this formula because it says compounded continuously. So we'll plug in all the values for this function. P, the principal, the initial amount that you start with, $6,000. E is a nice math number that we use that we'll just keep right there. And our rate we need to convert to a decimal, 0.06. The 25,000, the remaining value that we have, will go over on the left side of this equation, A, our amount that we end up with. And we want to figure out how much time it will take to do this. How you solve this equation now is divide both sides by that number 6,000. When we simplify that, we get 25 over 6 is equal to E times 0.06 times t. Then we need to convert this to a log, but not just a log, a natural log, since the base here is e. The natural log of 25 over 6 is equal to 0.06 times t. The last thing we need to do is divide both sides by 0.06 and then enter this into the calculator. The natural log of 25 over 6 divided by 0.06 is equal to how much time it took Lucy to save this much money. After you enter this into the calculator, you should have got choice D, 23.8 years. Question 5, this one comes from Unit 3, Right Triangle Trig, which happens to be my favorite unit. This one's talking about a lamp post being located 418 feet from a building. So here's that nice distance, 418 feet. I guess this would be the lamp post over here, and here's the building. Very exciting. The angle of elevation from the base of the lamp post to the top of the building is going to be 32.3 degrees. We are trying to solve how tall this building is, or in other words, the height of the building. Using right triangle trig, or SOHCAHTOA as a lot of you call it, we have an angle, we have an opposite side and an adjacent side. So we would be using the trig function tangent. Tangent of 32.3 6.3 degrees is equal to opposite, that height of the building, divided by the adjacent side. Multiply both sides by the denominator 418 and enter this into your calculator. Make sure you are in degree mode when you do so. And the answer that you get should be B, 264 feet.